Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Today I'm joined by Dan Carrigan, Nasdaq AVP of Strategy, and Scott Nations, President of Nations Indexes. CME Group, in partnership with Nasdaq, launched today futures based on the Nasdaq-100 Volatility Index, ticker symbol VOLQ, which measures 30-day implied volatility of the Nasdaq-100 index. The tech-heavy NDX is led by many of the bellwether high beta names that have driven the market higher in recent years, such as Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, Alphabet, and Tesla. And today we examine what goes into creating a new volatility measure with its inventor, Scott Nations, and how Nasdaq found interest in a notable and highly visible asset class. And Scott, what sparked creation of your methodology for today's market?
Jill, I was a proprietary option trader for a long time, ran a proprietary option trading group for a long time. And, we developed VOLDEX, which is the heart of VOLQ, really as an effort to inform our own trading. We realized that we could create some of these indexes and become better traders. And so we also realized we could roll them out and allow everybody to use them. And that's really how VOLQ came about. The goal is to express volatility, implied volatility on the Nasdaq-100 a little bit differently, and thereby inform traders, make them become better traders, allow them to be more efficient hedgers and investors. And that's really how VOLQ got started. So the difference between VOLQ and a traditional volatility index is that VOLQ really focuses on precisely at the money options. Those are the options that investors and hedgers are going to be most interested in. And why is that? It's Jill, because when we used to walk back into a trading pit or sit back down at a trading desk, we were interested in what the at the money options were doing. And that's what we would ask about. And Jill, nobody has ever walked back into a trading pit or sat back down at a trading desk and said, please give me a strike price weighted average of every option that's listed in the front two expirations. They don't ask that, even though that's what a traditional volatility measure measures.
And Dan, retail investors all seem to know about the term volatility, but it's often misunderstood. What are Nasdaq's plans to educate investors about volatility?
Jill, I think it is fair to say that volatility education, or what I like to call Volatility 101, has largely been missing from exchange outreach to first-time retail investors over the last several years. I mean, let's face it, volatility appears as a complicated concept, although I believe the reason why is not what it seems. You see, equity market volatility, as expressed by VOLQ, doesn't move lockstep with the underlying NDX index. In fact, it usually moves in the opposite direction of NDX about 79% of the time. But that means 21% of the time, it's doing something else. Which, for example, we just experienced in the last few weeks when that negative correlation didn't stay put. It actually shrunk, and considerably. Accordingly, we have put together numerous retail investor articles and videos so they can, as I like to also say, learn at www.nasdaq.com/VOLQ.
Scott, Dan makes a case retail investors should start with education before diving into new vol products, but when it comes to institutional investors, they certainly know vol. So how will VOLQ appeal to sophisticated traders and investors?
Jill, wonderful question in a couple of different ways. First of all, VOLQ, because it's based on the Nasdaq-100 options, will appeal to institutional investors as institutional portfolios start to look more like the Nasdaq-100. And they're starting to do that. They're continuing to do that as names like Amazon and Apple become a bigger portion of institutional portfolios. Second of all, VOLQ, because it focuses on precisely at the money options, generates unique, absolutely unique payoff profiles. And then if you combine VOLQ futures with futures on other volatility indexes, you get absolutely fascinating payoff profiles. For example, this is a way that you might want to isolate skew. And for an institutional investor, skew can be a really important component of earnings. And so the ability to hedge against skew or to take advantage of skew, those are just a couple of the ways that institutional users will use VOLQ.
Dan, over the last few months leading up to today's futures launch, our viewers have heard you kind of like a Mr. Volatility make the case the VOLQ index could be helpful to retail and institutional investors. What is your launch day message?
Well, Jill, volatility is a big opportunity stage. And specifically for retail and institutional investors, VOLQ is a megaphone broadcasting each day the Nasdaq-100 voice about whether it'll have a broad or narrow trading range, up or down, over the next 30 calendar days. So, Jill, hey, thanks for that nickname compliment. I guess Mr. Volatility says to retail investors everywhere, keep an eye on VOLQ as a weather gauge to help forecast whether there might be storm clouds on the horizon or, what I prefer, sunny skies for trading days to come.
And Scott, what do traders need to know about VOLQ futures?
Another good question. VOLQ, VOLQ, is the ticker for the index, the cash index. The ticker symbol for the futures for VOLQ futures is going to be VLQ. And again, those trade at the CME. So let's take a look at the specifications for the futures contract. They're going to have a $1,000 multiplier. So each contract will be worth $1,000 times the price of the futures contract, 5-cent tick. And so each tick will be worth $50. Again, we expect lots of hedgers and investors, speculators as well, to be using VOLQ futures, be hedging them, be using them to hedge or to trade against other products. So the important thing is that VOLQ futures were going to provide a really interesting alternative, and traders love alternatives, and particularly when they can generate unique payoff profiles. Again, the ticker symbol for the futures is VLQ. And Jill will be providing more context, more educational material. You can find all of that on the Nations Indexes Twitter feed, and that is @nations_indexes.
All right, and we'll certainly have our Monday VOLQ content as well on Trade Talks. Congratulations to Scott from Nations Indexes, Nasdaq, and CME Group for increasing trader and investor opportunity in the volatility space with VOLQ futures. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.